Oh, do you have a song for us today?
I don't have a song, but I can hum for you. Here is the size showdown.
Wow,
Here we
that
go.
was brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome, Rose. Good to be back. No songs this week.
No.
I
How
haven't
was your
played.
trip to the UK?
It was very nice. It was full of bacon sandwiches and room temperature ale.
Lovely.
Now
Are
I
those
am
good
eat.
things?
It was
Bacon
brilliant.
sandwiches sounds amazing.
It was absolutely amazing, and now I'm eating nothing but salads for the rest of June to try and
Oh,
lose.
offset all the bacon.
Yes, and room
Yeah.
temperature ale. So
Do you really need to offset the room temperature ale?
there are quite a few calories in ale, and there might have
I don't
been
know anything about beer.
quite a few pints of ale were consumed. So
Oh, I see. Yes. Okay.
so
Okay.
yes,
Well,
but no,
enjoy your salads now that you're back. It's good to see you. Yeah, so like I said, I figured we would talk about something that's just been kind of percolating around my brain the last couple of weeks because so we got an offer from somebody who wants to come pitch their product on the show, which we get all the time,
hmm
right? We get frequently people from various startups and new applications who want to come talk. And in this case, I was struck by the application sort of fitting into a category of other things. And I remarked to you, Colin, before we pressed record that it feels like lately everything new, or almost everything new, is just an app to try and prevent you from having to learn how to code something,
yes, yeah,
right? Whether it's um, like we've worked in SaaS management tools that basically have drag and drop workflows and things like that that do all the data transformation for you, all of those sorts of things, right? We don't have to learn how to do actual API calls or any of that.
no,
To tools that kind of sit on top of your databases, ignore my cat in the back. Tools that sort of sit on top of your databases and do your SQL queries for you, right? So the actual people who know how to do SQL can actually do their jobs instead of
yeah.
just answering people's requests all the time. I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, people are even using AI to just do the coding for you these days. But
Yeah. It's all no code automation, and I think the two of them go together. Obviously, Zapier is one of the main ones that everybody's been using for the last few years.
is it Workato?
Workata is, I think, one of them. There's a
There's even
whole
like niches of them. There's ones that are like marketed towards salespeople to like help automate
yeah
their sales flows. And
yeah.
then there's ones
Then
that are marketed to like HR or marketing people to, whatever.
yeah,
It's
but then
amazing.
HubSpot and others. I think all the big players, Salesforce, Microsoft,
Mm-hmm.
Google, all have a no-code citizen developer platform. I think
Citizen
it's
developer. Is that
citizen
your term or is
developer.
that from something else?
That is the industry term. It
So.
is. It is. I'm pretty sure it is. I'll check. But yeah, it's making your end users, the developers, if they want to, build something or create a better process, which is a couple of clicks and a fancy, web page URL that they direct their colleagues to go to. Before they would have to, speak to the development team within the company, and it'd have to be an RFP and it'd have to be budget. But now, you can just have, certainly in like Google Workspace in AppSheet, you have a nice drag and drop GUI. You create,
Mm-hmm.
the sort of the functions, the flow diagram. If you've got an existing spreadsheet with some sort of data as your sort of database of what you're collecting, even if it's just something as simple as, I don't know, ordering post-it notes or requesting post-it notes, you can do a no-code
Yeah.
solution for
You can
that.
request licenses to your favorite apps. Why can't you request office supplies?
Yeah, yeah. I only remember post-it notes because it's a everybody
Oh,
probably remembers them.
I'm a post-it note person. Like I have a stack of post-it notes over
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I have a
Some people,
project management board in my living room that
yeah,
is post-it notes.
some people have them. A funny story: back in 1998, I was working for ICL Fujitsu in the
Mm-hmm.
UK, working on a help desk. And for some reason, a new manager came in, and they hated seeing post-it notes all over the place on people's desks, so they banned post-it notes. And
The
then
travesty.
and a memo and a memo, and it was memos back in those days, went out to everybody saying, from X date we would no longer be using post-it notes and we wouldn't be buying them. Then post-it notes became a black market source of sort of currency inside the company, and people were meeting each other in the stairwells and like passing over post-it notes to each other, and
Wow.
it was
All because
crazy.
some guy didn't like people having post-it notes on their desk.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So
um
amazing. Anyway, back to the topic.
yeah.
I guess like I wonder sort of what are two things. One, what are the long-term sort of implications around this sort of, what did you call it? Civilian developer?
Citizen developers.
Citizen
And I am going to
developers.
Google that to make sure I am correct and not
Okay.
hallucinating. I know that AI can have hallucinations, and hopefully I am not hallucinating at the same time.
Do you ever wonder if
Cities.
AI hallucinations are like basically the computer equivalent of a brain fart?
Could be. Yeah, I've been Gartner on low code platforms. That's what they're talking about.
Okay. So
Uh,
citizen developer is the term. My bad for
Someone
not
with
knowing it.
little or no experience in formal coding, IT, or computer science. So yes.
Okay. I guess there are sort of two classes then, because there are IT people who don't code. They use no or low code tools,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
I'm technically one of those people. I
I,
have taken a JavaScript class. I can do a basic SQL query. I can read a script written in Python. But if you ask me to write something from scratch, it's not going to happen.
yep. Yeah. I identify as a citizen developer myself.
Yeah.
Always used, GUI tools. Always struggled with command line stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as
But
I
yeah,
can do
but
is
so
is
I guess like
apt-get.
what's the long-term implication of these like citizen developers? Like, do you think that it
With
stuns people's growth?
I don't think it stuns the end user's growth, and I don't think it
No. Not the
stuns
average user.
admin's growth. My always my fear of these tools, if I put my old IT admin hat on,
Old
was
man shakes fist at cloud hat.
was administration and security and visibility and control in the sense of having the ability to understand what was happening and having it operate within guidelines and boundaries that your security
Oh,
team
that's
needs to
true.
be
Yeah, because
working
a
in.
lot of these tools do not have controls on them. Like
Potentially,
you give them to people, they can do kind of whatever they want.
yeah, yeah, and people can sign up for a lot of these tools themselves, then start integrating them into your organization. All of a sudden, it becomes mission critical. Then the person who set it up leaves. The process breaks for some reason, and then the company,
Well, that's true with
turns
actual
to you.
code too.
Yeah, turns to you and says, but then,
Say it's worse with actual code.
but the actual code, and if you've been, building it internally, you would hope that it's a sanctioned product which has, a
True.
project plan, a project,
Oh,
guideline,
yeah, no, I see what you're
documentation.
talking about. Yeah, because
So
it's true. Like, if you build something and no one really knows about it, they just know that something breaks, it's a lot harder to find and a lot
yes,
harder to fix. And a lot of times, I've been in a situation or two where, like, somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, this thing stopped working, and I think I figured out why. But, like, and you're like, wait, they're doing what now?
yeah, yeah. So that, yeah. that is the fear, and some of these platforms, they're you and I have spoken many times about the limitations of centralized admin controls. A lot of
Yeah.
times, even with AppSheet on some of the lower tiers, there's limited visibility into what app sheets are being created within your tenant. I know there's
Yeah.
different tiers now for AppSheet Core, and I think Enterprise, which gives you more. I think that the app sheets are owned by the tenant as opposed to owned by the individual user. So it gives you, it's almost like a
Mm.
shared drive. So it gives you more management and control and visibility as an admin.
Yeah, I
But
think there's a lot that could be improved by like the concept of shared drives, right? The concept that something is owned by a company and not an individual.
yeah, yeah. But a lot of these companies, Zapier and the others, a sort of shadow IT, or a freemium model
And
where,
continue to be shadow IT.
yes, yeah, they
Yeah.
allow end users to automate through a no code environment, a part of their
Yeah.
job function.
Which I think is so sad because there's so many of these tools that really do have a fantastic effect on productivity,
Yes, yeah,
right? Like the speed at which you can get things done if you are using a tool that you like and are familiar with and has like features that you need. Like I know, Colin, you probably have this experience too, but like there's nothing worse than just like beating your head against a tool trying to get it to do something it doesn't want to do when there's something else out there that does. Right?
yeah,
That's why we work in Google and not Microsoft.
yeah,
But it's also it's why people have their sort of allegiances to apps, right?
yeah.
Because like the effect of productivity is huge. And I know this from like a change management point, like immediately following a change, productivity is supposed to go down. That's normal. It's just
Yeah.
like the speed at which it goes back up.
Yes, yeah. It's sometimes it sort of hits a speed bump. You have to slow
Yeah,
down. You go over the speed bump, and then you carry on going. So certainly
right.
for those people who live in an area with a lot of
But
speed
for
bumps,
some tasks, right, especially like super repetitive ones or really complex ones, those speed bumps can be big, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, it's not to say that like these apps aren't useful, but I see exactly what you're saying, right? Like there's just not a level of control involved, not a level of oversight involved
S-
for
s-
almost any of them.
without getting full enterprise
No.
engagement, and the
Right.
company
Yeah,
actually
without doing wall to wall
having,
adoption and
yeah, choosing one, and actually, the CIO,
investing.
CTO saying, all right, we need a platform. These are being used. Let's evaluate what we're going to use, whether it's Microsoft Power Automate or the
Mm-hmm.
offering from ServiceNow, Salesforce, whatever. There's been loads of commercials on TV for maybe last year, Salesforce and their no code, solution.
Well, and it's not a lot of times too. It's not as simple as picking a tool and rolling it out either, because if you want to get the kind of adoption that will give you the best ROI or even just a good ROI, because these things are expensive,
Yeah.
then you have to train people and spend time convincing them that this is a good thing for them. Like I remember I've had conversations with people about implementing AI, and I've had people even after a demo say, I just don't think there's that many use cases for this. And meanwhile, I'm like, what? Like, there's so many. There's so many. And like, I know this person's job. So like, I know that there's things that they do that AI could do for them, right? Something that they spend 2-3 hours on that AI could do in one minute,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting to have those conversations. But so when you talk about adopting these tools, it's not as simple as just picking one, even though that process is not simple either, to be fair. But it's not even as simple as that. Like you have
No.
to do the other thing where you convince people that it's something that they should use.
Well, yeah, well, that's part of the change management part of any of these projects for deploying it. But choosing it would be very difficult because probably trying to choose one of these no code solutions would not fit every solution, every
Every
process or
group.
function
Yeah.
within your organization. So that's
And if you
why
wait
there
long
is.
enough, you'll just end up having multiple of them in your organization. And then you'll have to
Yeah,
figure out how to get people to part with them.
yeah, yeah, and then yeah, you have to have those tough conversations that
Yeah.
this is unsanctioned, it's being disabled, and your access to it is being blocked. But then people will find ways around it. This is the age
Oh
old
my gosh.
problem.
Yeah.
You build a better mousetrap and you'll get a cleverer mouse. So they'll find ways around it. But it does
That
start
saying is a little
by,
dark.
I know, yeah, poor mice. Um, but yeah, it does start from evaluating an option. There are a lot of them out there, and even with no code, low code, it does still require some knowledge and training.
Mm-hmm.
Google AppSheet, I have tried to work with that. I've tried to use the Gemini chatbot to help, to talk to the chatbot and get it to create something for me. And I still struggled,
Mm-hmm.
at part of the process to get it to do exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
certainly.
think also, yeah, it's one of those things where there's just such a proliferation of these kinds of tools that
Yeah,
like you could end up having one for, I don't know, a dozen or more different tool things in your environment, right? So like if you take our example from the beginning, a SaaS management platform, low code, no code tool for IT managers to do a thing.
mm-hmm.
Can't really do that with something else, right? It has to be a SaaS management platform because it needs a particular sort of integration and a particular sort of access. Then
Yeah,
you move
yeah,
over to your like business intelligence software, right? And your
mm-hmm.
data science software that's like collecting all these logs and centralizing all this data for the whole company, which is like, I've been at companies where like that's the goal is like to get all this data in one place so that you can find it and like make relationships where there weren't any before. But then you can have a tool to help people query that and make visualizations off of it,
Yeah,
right? And without having the like more standard data science, like this is how you do this kind of thing knowledge, right? You could make it a lot easier for people to do that for themselves. We talked about like the sales sort of the Zapier experience, right? Where you can automate certain workflows that you do repeatedly.
yeah, yeah. Lead generation, I think, is all
Yeah.
automation, and through one of these platforms.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just 3 use cases. First thing, and I've been in organizations where they had all 3 of those use cases.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah,
more. So it's just like you end up with not just like a web of SaaS apps. You end up with a web of SaaS apps that are a particular niche. Like you could almost label them all the same thing, but they're not. They're not interchangeable, right? In the sense.
right. Yeah, yeah. As you say, a lot of these are very niche,
Yeah.
very niche.
But
But yeah,
that's just like, this is how we get to like 500 apps in an organization.
that is why I was thinking about that. That's why probably a lot of the SaaS State of the Union or State of the marketplace reports that have been coming out, that they generally come out at the beginning of the year. And I saw one recently talking about the number of apps that are used in organizations. That's probably, why, because yes, if you do audit your OAuth logs, you will find 800 different applications being used, because people might find a niche app that does one thing for one person. But obviously, there is a genuine dire need for this.
Mm-hmm.
We can't
Yeah,
all be
I mean the
coders. We don't.
productivity
We
is.
a lot of us don't have the mindset to be a coders.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of us are especially after the like rounds of layoffs in the last couple of years, there's a lot of people out there that are doing effectively multiple people's jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of those jobs are incredibly repetitive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why some of these tools do help. But yeah. So we'll have to find a no-code, low-code job to replace ourselves and edit the podcast, create the content, invite the guests.
Just pay
Maybe
ChatGPT instead of paying an intern.
I can't wait until vids.google.com is available, because I think we should
You
use
you
that.
really want to do a podcast episode
I
that is on like completely AI.
I do. I think we should, by the end, we
That'll
should
be our
build
capstone maybe for the
build
season, or capstone for next season.
yeah, build a completely AI generated uh, podcast video presentation with no humans taking part, just writing some prompts.
And then we have to do a reaction.
Yeah, we could watch it as first time viewers. That would be quite funny. So yeah, that's all of that is an addition to this no code life that we're in.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we get reached out to a lot by various companies who want to show us their thing. I don't know if we're gonna answer the one that brought up this topic, but thanks to them for poking a hole in my brain and letting me percolate on this for the entire time Colin was in the UK.
That's been brilliant. I'm glad the time was spent wisely.
Yeah, well. All right, Colin. Great to see you. I will see you next time.
Likewise. Cheerio.